Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Austin the Stash, joined today by Mitch Bartholomew, Superintendent of York Public Schools. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
You know, you have been a busy guy, being out and about. I see you at every football game, and I see you going out answering questions about the bond issue that is coming up in the election ballot, on the ballot, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How are you handling all of it?
You know, it's going well. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get out there and talk to our community because you know there are multiple people that have not been in the building itself. They've had no reason to be in the building, because their kids have been gone out of York for multiple years, those type of things. And so, we went into this expecting a lot of education and providing a lot of education and communication. And I feel like we're doing that. Here this coming week, we have an open house on Wednesday night. And, as we were tracking all these presentations, Wednesday night will be the 49th presentation that we've given. Now, let me make sure that I'm clear on what that looks like. Some of them have been those open houses. Some of them have been groups to 4 and 5. Some of them, to 10 to 12. Those type of things. But, when we sit down, with community members and try to educate them, it's just, again, it's another opportunity for us to, really sell, the programs that have evolved since 1993 and educate and talk about, how much education has changed because it has. And, we're really proud of York Public Schools because, it has evolved and all the different services that we have for students and families, we're just very proud of.
So you're nearing close to your 50th presentation.
Yeah.
And part of those presentations, I'm sure, is receiving a lot of questions about what is going on. What have some of those conversations been like?
Yeah, great feedback, great questions. One of the reasons I wanted to schedule this with you was because one of the main things was we were out presenting to Leadership York a few weeks ago. And a gentleman said this. He said something to the effect of, he said, now after listening to the presentation, I understand what you're trying to get done. He said, but if I might suggest some different messaging, and sure, we're all ears, and he said, when you say the word addition, I think people naturally think of you're adding a bathroom, you're adding one room, and so on. But when you said that you're adding 70,000 square feet, it dawned on me.
It's a little bit bigger than like adding a sunroom.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And he said, he goes, my suggestion is just to make sure that you're really focusing on, it is an addition, right? But it's a 70,000 square foot addition that almost matches the square foot of the existing building.
I was going to say, how big is the current building?
It is 78,000.
Jeez. So,
right.
Yeah, that's a big addition. Some would call that a multiplication.
That'd be correct. Yes, that'd be correct. And so that's some of the great feedback we've received. And so during our presentation, like Wednesday night, we'll really focus on when we say, here's what this community is getting for $39.5 million. It is virtually a new building when it's all said and done. Because you add 70,000 square foot and then you renovate 85 to 90% of the existing building. So all said and done, we're going to have a building, that's just shy of 150,000 square feet when we're done. Yeah. And it'll basically be virtually brand new.
That's incredible. That's huge for people to understand, because I think that when people first saw the proposal and they first were hearing about this, a lot of the feedback that I just heard just from being around in the community was the talk about early childhood education and how they don't really understand why that's such a big deal. And the other part was that it's so expensive because a lot of people obviously want to support the schools, but there's such a big, like, that's a big dollar sign.
It is.
On it. And so what do you get for that? A whole new building. Well, that's a big part of it.
Right. You know, and a lot of it too is we've had some good questions, you know, with comparing some other projects. So for example, the firehouse.
Right.
You know, the firehouse, this was a good question the other day. So the firehouse itself, it's my understanding it's going to be under 10 million. Mm-hmm. I don't have an exact number on that. But, you know, when we looked into it and reached out to the city, so let's just look at square footage alone. The firehouse is going to be about 23,000 square foot.
Oh, wow.
So much smaller.
Much smaller, yeah.
You know? And then when you start to get into the materials that you have to use, you know, schools are different than firehouses. I know there's a new hotel coming up, you know.
Yeah.
So schools, there's different standards. There's different safety standards. There's different material standards and so on. When schools are built, you know, they're designed to last 20, 25, and 30 years. Whereas some of the other things that are being built, you know, they'll naturally be remodeled, you know, probably every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And on top of that, you know, think about what the number of occupants in the building, period. You're never going to have, I mean, how many elementary school students do you guys have?
Like, 695.
Yeah, you're never going to have 700 people in the firehouse.
Right.
That just isn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's, as we've gone through and taken and good questions and good feedback, that's just one of our focal points, is just making sure, you know, that as we get to November 5th, you know, that we're presenting facts. And that way people, when they go to vote, you know, if they choose to vote, obviously we hope they do first, you know, and then they know what they're voting on. And so I think this is the square footage is a huge piece to this. Yeah,
absolutely. And so you have you have Wednesday, an open house. What other stuff do you have scheduled?
Yeah. So we had a Zoom meeting this morning with our committee. And so Wednesday night, our next open house at 6:30 at York Elementary. Really encourage you to come out. It's an informal setting. We go through a presentation of about 40 to 45 minutes and then offer a tour. And so we're hoping more and more people look at that as an opportunity. Also, too, we have some, on the side of it, we have a parent and community group that are identifying some door-to-door campaigns. And so they've identified a couple Sunday afternoons here coming up. And also, too, and then we've just got some other things working with that group that as they talk to folks that, you know, we just want to make sure that they know what they're voting on. So the other thing we're considering, we're going to evaluate after Wednesday night is do we need one more open house where maybe it's not on site? Maybe it's down at the library, you know, those type of things. And that might be that last week of October that we take a look at. But, you know, we want to make sure we're doing everything that we can to get the facts and the message out there.
For sure. And so another question that comes to mind is, you know, we're talking about 70,000 square footage, right? That's a whole lot. What all goes into that 70,000?
Yeah.
Like what physically is going to be built, like, and how will the school use that doubling of space?
Right. So when the board set out with this project, you know, they really wanted to focus on three things. They wanted to focus on the now. They wanted to focus on what will York Elementary look like in 5 to 10 years. And then how can we set up whoever is making the decisions, you know, in 15 to 20 years? Because the idea behind this, if you're going to do a bond like this, that, you know, this is a multi-year. So you're looking, you know, here in another 25, 30 years in York, they're probably going to have to look at doing something different than what we have now.
Right.
And so you know, one of the challenges right away is we need more classrooms. Plain and simple, we need more classrooms. And so a lot of the square footage is additional classrooms. So we would go from a 4-section grade level to a 6-section grade level. So it add 2 classrooms immediately, you know, K through 5. The other thing that, again, we wanted to look at is our future. And so if York Elementary continues to see this 2 and 3% growth per year, which you think about, well, 2 and 3% is not a lot, but 2 and 3% of 695
is quite a bit.
That's just not one or two students, right? And so if that's the continued growth, then what we want to make sure is we're planning for our future as well. So part of the scope of the project is that it has an open, what we'll call a commons area to each pod, but it also has a room that if needed down the road, all you would have to do is wall off and you would have a 7th classroom per grade level. And that would not take a bond, to do that. That is something that a school budget could handle. But those are the main things. The other main piece of this is our kitchen and cafeteria space is just too small. The kitchen is the smallest across the district and serves 800 meals a day between breakfast and lunch. So that's another big part of this. Obviously the early childhood center, which we've talked about, multiple times, is a piece of this. And so 70,000 square foot is a lot, and it's virtually another building.
Yeah.
So it's between the classroom space, the added classroom space, the future classroom space, the kitchens, the bathrooms are a big deal. I know a lot of people have looked at me and go, seriously, bathrooms? Once you get in there, really there are 2 bathrooms for 695 students, and again, they have multiple stalls in them, but not near enough, near enough. So obviously that's a big part of, what we were proposing to add as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. I know that this is not a question that you necessarily want to think about, but like, how does having an elementary school building be brought up to this level? How does that then set up the middle school and elementary school, or middle school and high school?
Yeah. And we've had that very question, are we going to have to turn around and do something there? The answer to that question is, we are seeing some increased numbers across our school district. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
The nice thing about when you start hitting into the middle school and then the high school is the programming is just different. They're not with their home or room all the time. And so as you start getting into middle school, then you start seeing some different options. You see the bands, you see the choirs, you see the industrial technology courses, you see the ag courses. And so they begin to kind of split off and so on. And so we're able to maintain, what we have. We have seen, like at our middle school saw the largest increase of students this year. And I think it's 21, 22, 23. Additional students than they had a year ago. What's hard with enrollment is, you'll have your bubble classes. And so, you have to prep for your bubble classes. What I mean by that is in our current 2nd grade is a big bubble class. Right now we have 121 students in 2nd grade. And that's some of the idea behind this project is we need another teacher for 2nd grade right now, but there's nowhere to go.
Right.
And so on. So, we're used to that. And we have a bubble class in our high school that's big, and so on. And then, you get those years where you have a class of 115, 8th grade, and then all of a sudden they go to 9th grade. Well, the incoming 6th graders are like 95. So
kind of makes up the offsets. And I got you. Gotcha. That's really interesting. I never would have thought of it. I think you just kind of expect that, like, well, every class is going to be about the same size. Right. And it's funny to think about the anomalies that come in and having to account for those.
Right.
So very interesting stuff. So if people are looking for more information, the open house is on Wednesday at York Elementary.
Yes, at 6:30.
At 6:30. So you can definitely go there. And then where else can people find more information?
Well, I think a great resource is on our webpage, yorkpublic.org. Right there on the front, there's a little box that says bond information, and it has I think some great the questions that we're getting frequently. We have an FAQ page to it. There's some great questions on there with explanations. There's a calculator on there, so if you know the approximate value of your home, you can go put that in there. You could see what the impact would be, and there's just a lot of good information. So that would be the main site that I would tell people to go to.
There you go, and of course they can always reach out to you via email and all that all that sort of stuff. You are more than willing to answer any questions that people have moving forward.
You betcha.
So, well, Mitch, thanks so much for stopping by and giving us this information, and appreciate everything you're doing.
You bet. Thank you.